I want to thank Chairman Delperdang for inviting us. We've discussed this oil pipeline leak, and we're happy to participate with you. And I'm glad all the water committees here this morning, I believe. So, good morning.
With that, we've got Gary Salzman, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Vice President, Field Operations with TNC Energy. Welcome to the committee, and we really do appreciate you being here and looking forward to what you got to say. So
appreciate that. Chairman Delperdang and Minix, Vice Chairs Turner and Howerton, ranking members O'Habazim and Vaughn, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you information about TC Energy, our presence in the state of Kansas, and update you on our milepost 14 incident. For more than 70 years, TC Energy has provided reliable energy to millions. The energy we deliver is critical to power homes, businesses, and industries, and drives economic growth in every corner of the continent. In fact, TC Energy operates approximately 58,000 miles of natural gas transmission pipelines and more than 3,000 miles of liquids pipelines in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. We are proud that our infrastructure helps to fuel the world, including supplying more than 25% of the natural gas demand used in North America. Two of our systems go through 31 counties in Kansas, our A&R pipeline, which is a natural gas system, and the Keystone pipeline system. The Keystone system, which has the capacity to transport over 585,000 barrels of crude oil per day, stretches nearly 2,700 miles across the United States, including 310 miles here in the state of Kansas. People are at the heart of our work, and TC Energy employs thousands, including engineers, technicians, and other skilled workers, providing a source of income and stability for families in this state and across the country. TC Energy is proud to pay almost $5 million annually in salaries to workers in Kansas. TC Energy is committed to supporting the communities in which we operate. Not only do we support local organizations and initiatives and work to minimize the impact of our operations on the environment and local ecosystems, in 2022, TC Energy paid more than $28.3 million in property taxes in the state of Kansas. In fact, TC Energy is the largest taxpayer in many Kansas counties. At TC Energy, our core values of safety, integrity, collaboration, innovation, and responsibility guide our every action, from our projects and operations through to our decision-making process. Maintaining the safety and integrity of our pipelines and facilities is our most important commitment to our employees and the communities in which we operate. We have over $1 billion invested in pipeline system every year. Our proactive approach to preventative maintenance has been recognized by numerous industry associations. In 2021, our industry advancing P-Square model dealing with corrosion prevention was recognized with the prestigious Global Pipeline Award from the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. We have also received numerous other awards from industry associations in Canada and the United States relating to our overall safety record and employee safety in particular. We conduct business with the highest of ethical standards, including honesty, fairness, and transparency, and we strive to work collaboratively to build long-lasting relationships with the communities and with the stakeholders like you to achieve our common goals. We work continuously to improve our operations and find innovative solutions to meet the evolving needs of our customers, policymakers, and our industry. And finally, we recognize our responsibility to operate in an environmentally responsible manner and continue to protect the well-being of the communities across our footprint. While we strive for zero safety or operational incidents, our Keystone system did not achieve this goal. And at approximately 9:01 Central Time on December 7th, 2022, our emergency response protocols were activated after a drop in pressure was detected by our operational control center. A full system shutdown was initiated within 7 minutes, and we immediately dispatched local field crews who isolated the incident site in Washington County, Kansas, that ultimately resulted in 12,937 barrels of crude oil being released. Our emergency response was immediately activated, and throughout the duration of our response, we have deployed 3,000 people to the Milepost 14 site, averaging over 800 people per day at site, working around the clock. To date, we have recovered over 95% of the oil that was released. During the entire emergency response, we have established environmental monitoring, including around-the-clock air monitoring. These response efforts will continue until we have fully remediated the site. Our primary focus in responding to the incident continues to be the health and safety of the surrounding community, on-site staff and personnel, and mitigating the risk to the environment. We continue to respond to this incident in a unified command with the U.S. Department of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. As I mentioned, integrity is one of our core values, and from the outset of this incident, we work to keep the community, local landowners, elected, appointed, and regulatory officials, and tribal leaders informed of our response, recovery, remediation, and investigation of the Milepost 14 site. We welcome tribal representation on site to monitor the progress and work with local and state environmental agencies to develop incident-specific wildlife management plans, including specialists to care for impacted wildlife. On December 29th, 2022, after safely completing the repair and replacement of the impacted segment, we proceeded with a controlled restart of the Cushing extension under operational plans approved by the U.S. Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or PHMSA. The pipeline, which became operational to all delivery points, was then and is still monitored 24/7 to deliver energies to the customers who rely on us. The system continues to operate with additional risk mitigation measures, including reduced operating pressures. Earlier last month, we advanced our root cause investigation and the completion of an independent third-party mechanical and metallurgical analysis of the failed pipe. The analysis concluded that the failure occurred due to a combination of factors, including bending stress on the pipe and a weld flaw at a pipe to fitting girth weld that was completed at a fabrication facility. Although welding inspection and testing was conducted within the applicable codes and standards, the weld flaw led to a crack that propagated over time because of bending stress fatigue, leading to an instantaneous rupture. The cause of the weld flaw and bending stress remains under investigation as part of a broader third-party root cause analysis. It's important to note the metallurgical analysis identified no issues with the strength of the material properties of the pipe or the manufactured fitting. Additionally, the system was operating well within its operational design and permit requirements. Our focus continues to be the safe operation of the pipeline system. Last week, TC Energy received an amended correction action order from PHMSA. The Keystone pipeline system remains operational since restarting. It has been operating with additional mitigations. Additionally, we have reduced our operating pressure, and we will continue to support the safe operations of our system while we continue our response and investigation, which is consistent with the order from PHMSA. Our team is progressing a remediation plan, including analysis of other areas with potentially similar conditions, the use of additional inline inspections, and further operational mitigations. The safety of our employees and communities and the integrity of our pipelines are of utmost importance to me and to our company. No incidents are acceptable to us. We take this responsibility very seriously, including our decisive response and efficient cleanup efforts with a coordinated effort by local, state, and federal agencies, along with more than 800 on-site personnel to contain and remove the spilled product. The prompt and expert response, including a collaborative effort with local first responders, in the middle of the night to deploy booms on the creek significantly slowed the oil migration and enabled us to establish a containment dam downstream the following morning. These actions helped to minimize the impact of the spill on the surrounding ecosystem and prevent further damage. I want to commend the efforts of Washington County, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and the Environmental Protection Agency, PHMSA, and the Department of Transportation, and our hundreds of workers who continue to work around the clock, including over Christmas and New Year's and in inclement weather, to ensure the safety of the surrounding communities and who continue to work tirelessly to restore the impacted areas. This was an all-hands effort for our company. Not only those who mobilized at the site, but workers from across our footprint joined a campaign to show our appreciation to Washington County community to support the Washington County Hospital. That giving campaign, which had an internal and external match, collectively raised $120,000 for the Washington County Hospital. Most importantly, I would like to enter into the record appreciation for the people of Washington County. Incidents like these affect real people, those who live in the community, local officials, landowners who have workers suddenly mobilized on their land, and the hundreds of workers who quickly relocated to respond to the incident. The good and kind people of Washington County welcomed our teams and those from tribal, state, and federal regulators with open arms and warm hearts. The residents of Washington County were as concerned about our workers as we were about resolving this incident. We never expected the baked goods, the meals, and the outpouring of support our company and our workers received from the community, and we will never forget it. The Milepost 14 incident is a concerning event for TC Energy, but the immediate response and cleanup efforts that followed demonstrated the importance of a swift and coordinated response to minimize the impact of environmental hazards. Our ongoing commitment to remediation, investigation, and shared learnings is unwavering. We will continue to prioritize the safety and environmental protection in all aspects of our energy infrastructure, and the positive response to this spill is a step in the right direction. Finally, I thought I would leave you this morning with the words of Dan Thalman, the editor of the Washington County News. In an editorial which followed a cookie drive led by the community for our workers who are spending Christmas working on the cleanup, Mr. Thalman wrote, and I quote, "Overall, we should be so proud of our local reaction to this oil spill incident. By no means should we blow it off like it isn't a big deal, but we should be thankful that TC Energy and other participating organizations have brought a cleanup army to make the situation right. While some of the state and media and special interest lobbyists have tried to blow up this incident way beyond what it is, here on the ground, we see the good work that is happening. And after seeing that good work, instead of tent encampments of anti-energy protesters filling the area, our community delivered cookies. How awesome is that?" End of quote. TC Energy is committed to fully restoring and reclaiming the impacted area, fully investigating the root cause of the incident, and applying the lessons learned, not only in how we operate, but to lead improvement to our entire industry. While we do this, we will comply with PHMSA's order and develop remedial work plans that continue to improve the operational safety of this system. As we progress this work, we are committed to treating our impacted landowners with respect and to fairly compensate them for their loss. I reiterate, no incident is acceptable to us, and we acknowledge that our performance needs to improve. We will invest what is needed to make this industry an industry-leading pipeline while we continue to provide the energy that North Americans need and rely on. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Gary. We appreciate the presentation. Before I open to questions, is there anyone else with you, specifically with TC Energy, that would like to make any comments or come up and talk? Because I only had you there, but I noticed there were some others here.
No, I think it's just me today.
Okay.
Chairman,
Well,
thanks.
take a deep breath. And I'm going to open the floor to questions. For the body here, I've got Casey O'Halvison here, who is kind of tracking questions. So try and get his attention, and we will get you on there. So yeah, first off, I don't have anybody that's raised their hand. Who we got first off? Okay, Representative Schlingensiepen, take it away.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question. How much has the cleanup cost to date? And how much of that cost was borne by public entities and the initial response to that? And will those entities be compensated for that initial response?
Thank you for your question, Representative. At this point, and we've made this public in a number of different areas, but we expect that this cleanup will cost in the order of $480 million. There have been some costs bared by some of the county officials, emergency response teams, et cetera, but it's our intention to fully reimburse those costs to those agencies that supported us.
Okay, next up we have Representative Roth.
Thanks for your presentation. I was curious about the pipeline, and you mentioned that it was a weld that started fracturing or cracking, and it just got due to pressure or something and bending it blew up. But how long was that section of pipe in the ground before this incident happened? Do you know that?
Yeah, that section of pipe was installed in 2011 during the original construction of the Keystone Cushing extension section.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Solomons, for the presentation. I appreciate what you're doing there in Washington County. But I do have some questions about the restart and the pressures that you mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about what the pressure was on the pipeline during initial run, and then following after the break and the repairs were made? I think you mentioned that there were some reduced pressures, and but you didn't give a number, so I was just trying to get a feel for the breadth of those pressure changes.
Sure. Yeah, I think I heard most of that. There was some background noise, but if I don't answer your question, just feel free to follow up. At the time of the incident, the operating pressure of the pipeline was 1,153 psi, which is significantly below the maximum operating pressure of 1,440 psi. We imposed after the incident an immediate derate on our pressure to address any concerns, and we are also, as required by the amended Correction Act of Order from PHMSA, to maintain a pressure on that impacted section of 64% of the minimum yield strength, and then 72% on our phase one system. And we have complied with that even before the order. We self-imposed that on ourselves.
So those percentages are those percents of the 1153 psi?
Not exactly. It's a specified minimum yield strength of the pipe. So 72% is the yield strength. I don't have the exact psi pressure that is, but it's significantly below our maximum operating pressure that we have within our permit.
Okay. Sorry, making sure I was in order. On the pipeline itself, with the weld the flaw that you identified that was from the manufacturer, it sounded like, or wherever it was welded. what kind of corrective actions then do you take throughout the pipeline to ensure whether it came from the same manufacturer or whatever isn't repeated in another location?
Sure. Good question. We are ongoing with a number of remedial work plans that we're going to implement. That will include looking at other areas that have similar conditions or similar type welds, et cetera, from that particular fabrication facility. We also intend to run a sophisticated inline inspection tool, which has the capability of detecting cracks that are similar to the one that eventually propagated and failed in this instance. And we are still working with PHMSA to develop a number of other remedial work plans that we have an obligation to report that to them in the coming weeks. And as we develop that out, that will be available.
Is that investigation of the other welds from that fabrication facility time frame? Is that several months or years, or do you have any estimate?
That's ongoing. We're already mobilizing some additional crews and things to go out and do those investigative digs and inspect those welds as well, in addition to a number of other things. We've already run this ultrasonic circumferential crack tool in the impacted segment and in an adjacent segment, and we plan to run that tool elsewhere as well to ensure that we've done a thorough examination of the welds in our system.
One last one, sorry.
Sure.
So with the section that did break, will there be a realignment of that pipe so the stress caused by the bend or whatever that was there is taken out of the situation?
Correct. Yeah, we repaired that section of pipe already, and the pipeline was returned to service, as I mentioned, on December 29th of 2022. I was there personally myself as we put that pipeline back in service and completed those welds, and we ensured that as we did that there were no residual stresses or anything in that location.
So it was realigned, so it took that stress off.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, absolutely. Representative Syward, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Gary, for coming down here. I want to tell you thank you for your quick response, because I know there's a lot of controversy on pipelines. In fact, I got about 8 of them running through my property. I know you guys responded very quickly. My question has kind of been answered by some. And again, I want to thank you again for your quick response. And there's disasters everywhere, no matter what industry it is. It seems like the attacks have been made on the pipeline. But my question is, you touched on it on the weld. Was that a contractor welded pipe there, or was that a TCI pipe? And you said you're going to try to check where those particular welds were again. That's intriguing to me, if you respond to that.
Yeah, so that weld, the weld in question that failed was completed in a fabrication facility, machine shop type environment. And our records that we have on the construction of the pipeline are very detailed, and we're able to identify any other areas where we have similar welds. And that's the process that we're going through right now, identifying those, locating them as part of this. But we are taking, that's one step. We're taking a much more systematic approach to this. We're not just looking at those welds in particular. We're looking at other factors, because this was not, again, I'll stress, this was not an event that was caused by the weld flaw alone. It was also the bending stress in combination with the weld flaw that ultimately led to that failure. So as a part of the PHMSA corrective action order, there's a number of other things that we'll be doing, and in concert with PHMSA to identify any other issues that we have.
Can I ask one more? So when you say that, was that an on-premise weld or an off-premise weld that was shipped to the site?
It was an off-premise weld. So
that was a question.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. when you build a pipeline this long, that you're going to run into bodies of water. It's unavoidable. Could you speak to what sort of additional mitigation or planning measures or avoidance goes into place when you lay out your initial development plans and you come near streams or sensitive wildlife areas?
Yeah, we have specific requirements within high consequence areas. For example, we have a requirement to be able to shut down the pipeline within 1 hour in any high consequence area. Each stream crossing is designed specifically for that crossing, typically designed with a heavier wall pipe through those crossings as well, and other mitigation measures as well. In addition to that, I would say that we have a very robust emergency response plan in areas where we have high consequence areas. And as you can see by our response, our teams were able to respond to this incident, be on site within a couple of hours of identifying the alarm from our operations control center, locate this leak in the middle of the night, and managed to deploy booms immediately to make sure that we minimize the impact of this incident. So we practice those drills yearly, and our teams are well trained to respond to that. And we have staff locally positioned within reasonable distances from all these areas to make sure that we can respond in that time frame.
Representative Blacks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Salzman, for a great detailed report. Appreciate that. A lot of effort went into that. A couple of questions. One is, you mentioned your volume of capacity before the leak at a different pressure. What is that volume now as far as gallons per hour or whatever, however you rate that? And also, do you happen to know what country of origin the pipe was?
Our current, as I mentioned in my initial comments, the current volume of transport capacity right now with the reduced pressures is 585,000 barrels per day, which enables us to meet all our contractual commitments on the Keystone pipeline system. The pipe origin, I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not specifically sure, but I believe it was manufactured in the United States, but I have to confirm that.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Smith.
I do know, well, Representative Blex, I do know the fitting that was associated there was manufactured in Canada from a facility there. But.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your report. You said you recovered 95% of the crude oil. The last 5% is probably the hardest part to recover. Will you have to remove all that soil, or how close can you get to put them back to where it was? Thank you.
I appreciate that question. So this response, I look at it in 5 steps. So our initial response was accessing the failure site itself, cleaning up the area around the failure site. I'm sure all of you saw some of the pictures of the oil on the ground in that area. We've completely cleaned that up and remediated that area and repaired the pipeline. Then the next phase, which we have completed 3 or 4 weeks ago, was recovering all the bulk oil. So that was the oil that was sitting on top of the water. So we had 24/7 around the clock efforts with skimmers, which are devices used to bring the oil in where we can suck it up with vacuum trucks. We also, due to the weather, as you guys probably all recall, it was quite cold through the holidays here in Kansas, and we also used direct digging in the creek with long stick hose to make sure that we could dig that oil directly out, deposit it into containers, and move it off site. And now, as you alluded to, we are well into the actual creek cleanup. So what we have done is we built a series of dams along the creek, the 4.6 mile section that is impacted. We've built a complete diversion around the creek, which is capable of handling 120 cubic feet per second of water flow. So all of the water within that impacted section is contained. We are diverting the creek completely around that area to ensure that there is no water quality impacts downstream of that area. And we are also now beginning to de-water the entire creek, and we've done that in a number of sections. We built two large retention ponds, one that is 10 million gallons, the other which is 18 million gallons. We are dewatering the creek into the first pond where we can separate any solids or oily water, and then moving that water into the second pond where we have established a very sophisticated, almost municipal scale water filtration system that we are then running that water through, constantly testing it to ensure it meets the Kansas Department of Health and Environment requirements, and then dewatering that back into the creek. So what that enables us to do as we completely dewater the creek, we're able to get crews, hundreds of people down in the creek working in some areas with shovels, bags, other implements, as well as mechanical equipment to actually dig any remaining oil that's there out of the creek. And to date, we have recovered or cleaned up, I would say, and this is just a rough figure, probably about 25% of that 4.6 mile section has been cleaned up. And as we clean up each section, we have EPA and Kansas Department of Health and Environment coming behind us and testing the soil in that area to ensure that there is no remaining contamination. And they sign off to approve that we are complete in that area. So we're progressively working our way down the creek, dewatering as we go. And then the final step, after we've completed that, return water to the creek, done all the necessary testing, we can begin the final remediation and removal from the site, including removing all of our equipment, matting, other things that we've had to put in place to make sure that we could do this work effectively. So I expect that initial creek cleanup activity would be probably another 2 months that we'll be at that to get that completed, and then we will begin our restoration activities. But our goal again is to make sure that we're going to be in this till we're done. We're focused on being here until this job is complete. We take this very seriously, and we owe that to the residents of Washington County and the people of the state of Kansas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation this morning. I'm not totally aware of the path that the pipeline takes through Kansas. Obviously, the spill was in the far north central part of the state, but in the far south central part of the state, there's been a variety of well-documented small earthquakes down there. Does your pipeline run through that area? And if so, does that require any specific or exceptional engineering or installation requirements for handling something like that?
I'm not, it's probably a question beyond my capabilities, Representative Stotsdill, but I'd say that when we design a pipeline, we take all of those factors into consideration. And I would think that was part of our design criteria in that area. We do look at seismic areas as we're routing pipelines and look into that. But I can't specifically answer that question, but I will get back to you on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Representative Pickard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here. So I Googled this on my phone, and I was impressed with the number of times that you guys posted updates for anybody to see. But it was between December the 8th and the 29th, there were 14 updates, which I think is really you're to be commended for that, because people in the community and around the state that had any interest or were going to be impacted could know where they stood. And so it's a lesson to me that if something like this happens in my area, I could get online and find out. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment.
Representative Laura Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here today. I just had a question. I was reviewing your website and you talk a lot about investing in pipeline safety. And, some of the bullet points are risk assessment and threat identification and evaluation. When it comes to looking at the pipeline in the bend with the bending stress, fatigue, and the banding flaw, was there any, flags during your threat assessment initially that showed that there could be a cause of concern or this could happen?
We, to my knowledge, we did not have any indication that that issue existed in that particular location. So.
And then moving forward, you said that you were going to start evaluating those other parts of the pipeline that included similar aspects and characteristics of the break. Are there any other things that you're adding whenever it comes to, assessing risk and threat moving forward to help prevent this from, happening in the future, and kind of taking a more, a better look at how safety and moving forward there?
Absolutely. And like I mentioned in my opening statement, we always, learn from these incidents, and we are, again, our initial response. And I, as I said earlier, we are still waiting. We understand what happened. At this point, we don't understand the why. And we expect in the next couple of weeks that we will get our third-party root cause failure analysis, and that will give us more information as to what specifically we have to look at. So our pipeline integrity teams are currently investigating, what options there are for different inline inspection tools. We're looking at other things that have been requested by PHMSA as well, like the geotechnical analysis and other activities. But I will say we are, safety is our number one priority. We don't want to be in these situations, and I can guarantee you that we're going to do everything we can within our power to make sure that we understand what happened here and how that we can do better and how we can resolve this situation going forward.
Representative Patrick Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Ms. Salzman, for being here today. I really appreciate your testimony, and I appreciate what you're saying right now. The question that I have is dealing with something similar that we've actually seen happen at the Grove site, 29th and Grove down in Wichita, dealing with the spill that happened years ago. KDHE failed to respond to it appropriately and keep the public informed of what was going on with mitigation and the contamination in the area and how it was impacting the communities of color that are in that area. And this is on the out years. So I guess the question that I have for you, or the commendation that I want to give to you, I understand what you said to Representative Pickard and to the other colleagues. Your company, I would charge, needs to be a faithful partner with the community that's affected, not only in the right now to get it right on websites and communicating effectively, but also in the out years, because the impacts last for quite a while. What is it that you are proposing that you all do to maintain that level of communication with new residents that may move in, to make them abreast and keep them aware of exactly what happened, what do they need to know, and how it might impact them into the future? And that's beyond what the EPA, beyond what KDHE may or may not do, failure or success. What will you all do?
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Representative. We are, as I said, we're not here. We're not here for the short term. This pipeline is going to be part of this community for many, many years to come. In fact, many of our workers live in this community and are part of this community. And in particular, the individual that responded that night had a relationship with the local county emergency response team and was able to contact those people. Like, we want to be part of these communities. And first of all, I would say that we will be here until we fully remediate this issue. And my hope is that there won't be any follow-up after that. But we are committed to being part of this community, keeping the community informed. We have had several updates. Me personally, I have met with the county commissioners on a couple of occasions. We'll continue to do that, and we're not going anywhere. We're gonna stay here and answer any questions and provide any information that the communities want.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, may I have one quick follow-up? Thank you. And I truly appreciate that sentiment. I really do appreciate that. One of the things that I would say that we've seen as a constant failure down with that particular site that I referenced earlier is that there are no town halls. There are no closed meetings. There are no open meetings. There are no public notices. There's no opportunity for the public to know what has actually occurred, how it may be affecting them. If it is done under a fleeting cloak. Would you all be opposed to holding those types of meetings with the public and giving advance notice, public notice, so that people actually can be notified and attend?
So, first of all, I would say that through our continuous air monitoring, sampling, we have not identified any impacts to water quality, air quality, to any impacted any area along the impacted area. We have remained in constant contact with the directly impacted landowners. Our teams visit them on a regular basis. We answer all their questions, provide them with any support they need, and we will continue to do that. We've also had open communication with the county commissioners and shared that information. And as we've talked about just a few minutes ago, we provide regular updates on our website. If there was a desire to do that, I think that's something we could consider. But at this time, there hasn't been really a request, because I think, we've managed to maintain the impact of this incident to a very small and contained area.
Absolutely. And we've got a few representatives who are wanting to ask questions for a second time around. Just a note to you guys that we're going to run through the list here first, make sure everybody has their chance. And if we've got time at the end, we'll circle back around to you. But we are tracking it, so I appreciate it. So next up, Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here. I'm just trying to get all my numbers in order for when I get questions from my constituents. So I did a little Googling on the PSI. So previously you said the PSI was 1,153 and that there'd been a significant reduction. So looking up the reduction, what I'm reading is that the current PSI is 923. Is that an accurate number?
That's correct.
Thank you.
That is the pressure on the impacted section, which is between Steel City on the border of Nebraska and our next pump station, which includes the impacted section.
Okay. Representative Emil Berquist.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, sir, for your testimony, your information. A logistical question for the weld and for the assembly of the pipe. I think you mentioned that some of the pipe, or maybe the pipe, is welded in sections off-site and then brought to the site. Is that correct?
Yeah, typically in pipeline construction, when you're doing a weld between a fabricated fitting, so this is a short bend to allow you to get underneath to the right elevation to across the creek. Typically those welds are what you call a transition weld, which is from heavier to lighter wall pipe. So the general practice is to do those welds in a controlled environment like a fabrication shop, as opposed to out on the site.
And that's that goes with my question: is it welded to topography and to terrain, or is it, and in this case I think you're saying it is for a specific angle to a specific next point. So correct. So the straight line welds, the ones that are between a long section of straight pipe, would probably be welded on site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So two different kind of situations. That was all my question. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Representative Carmichael.
Aha, an evil plot here. Turn off my microphone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate TC Energy's commitment to transparency. Let me ask you, there are press reports that following the incident, TC Energy leased or made payments to landowners for access, and included in those agreements non-disclosure agreements, which restricted landowners' ability to share with the legislature, the press, the public, their friends, and their neighbors what happened on their land. Is that correct? And if so, why?
I don't know offhand the specifics of those.
Who would know?
That would be our land department deals with that.
Here is the representative of TC Energy today. Would you secure that answer and please provide it to us?
Yes, absolutely.
Second question, with your permission, Mr. Chair. In view of your commitment to transparency, what is the total current estimated cost of the cleanup and remediation?
We are currently estimating that at $480 million.
And when do you expect to complete the cleanup and remediation?
Well, first of all, I would say we will be there until we are done.
I understand. My question is, when do you currently expect to complete this work?
Our current estimate of activities would be completing our major oil cleanup activities. So that's what I explained earlier, the creek cleanup within the next 2 months. And then we would expect a few months of additional effort. All this time, the amount of people required will be reduced, and we will be looking at that over the next 6 months.
6 months, do you expect to be finished with cleanup? I'm trying to ask because landowners and citizens are concerned about this. When should we expect you to be done?
Well, that's not represented on, unfortunately, that's not entirely within our control.
The answer is you don't know.
The answer is that we will do that in accordance with EPA and KDHE. So,
no, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Who's the next one? Representative Lindsey Vaughn, who is the ranking member of Water.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Salzman. From all the people I have talked to who've been involved with the spill, they've talked about how efficient and comprehensive TC Energy has been in the cleanup. So I do appreciate that. But I do have a number of concerns and a series of questions I hope to ask today with the chair's permission. So I did get a copy of the PHMSA order of, with the corrective actions that have been required. And the order states, quote, the spills show a tendency or pattern in recent years of increasingly frequent incidents resulting in larger releases. And I think that's something, or I know that's something that's also reiterated in the Government Accountability Report that was released in 2021. So I'm wondering, with the increasing number of spills, with 4 of your 5 largest spills on the Keystone being in the last 7 years, what does TC Energy make of the increased frequency and severity of these spills? And ultimately, what are you doing to make sure this doesn't happen again?
So thank you for your question, Representative Vaughn. We acknowledge that we've had previous incidents, and as I mentioned earlier, no incident is acceptable to us, and we want to be sure that something like this isn't going to happen again. And I would say each of the previous incidents we have done complete and full investigations in cooperation with PHMSA and other agencies. We have implemented corrective actions. We've gone above and beyond with integrity programs and remedial work plans on each of those situations after we've determined the root cause. And I feel confident that each of those scenarios that we have resolved those particular issues on our system. Again, unfortunately, with respect to this milepost 14 incident, we did have another incident, and I am certain that we will do the same thing. We are going to get to the bottom of this, understand through our root cause failure analysis what happened, and we're going to look very hard across our system to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you followed the remedial work plans and taken these corrective actions, but I think my question is ultimately the frequency and severity of these spills is still increasing. So why is that?
Again, I say no incident is acceptable, and this is an unfortunate event. We will, like I said, continue to understand what the root cause of this issue is and resolve it. And that is our goal. Safety is our number one priority. I personally, I've been with this company 25 years, and we always do the right thing. And it's unfortunate. We know we need to do better, and we're going to do that. We're going to make sure that whatever caused this incident, we're going to figure that out, and we're going to rectify it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you mentioned the root cause. Is your third-party root cause report and your remedial work plan going to be made available to the public?
As we've released our metallurgical analysis, we fully expect that we will release that root cause failure analysis. We, as TC Energy, we compete on a lot of things, but we don't compete on safety. It's also our intention to share the root cause failure analysis with broader industry, so that in the hopes that other companies can learn from what we learn as well. So we would be happy to share those results when they become available, just like we did with our metallurgical analysis.
Thank you. I had a couple questions about the specific corrective actions that were listed in PHMSA's report. So I know you talked about how it was indicated that the bending stress on the pipe and the weld flaw were the identified causes. In the report, it does mention, quote, the evaluation must determine if land movement may have contributed to the loading and stresses on the pipeline at the failure locations. And I know, end quote, and I know seismicity was talked about earlier as well. So I'm wondering if you can share more about what land movement means in the context of your pipeline and what effect that would have over the broader pipeline as a whole.
Yeah, we have as you stated, that is one of the areas of focus of the corrective action. There has been a number of incidents in industry lately that are attributable to land movement. We do have a geotechnical program at TC Energy that monitors any concerns with land movement, and we will comply with the corrective action order and ensure that we investigate that. At this time, I would say it's too early to speculate, since we don't have the root cause failure analysis, whether land movement was a contributing factor to this particular incident.
Thank you. And then a quick follow-up on the weld breaks. So I know one of the corrective actions as well is to identify all of the welds, the testing of welds similar to the one that failed in December. So I'm just curious, how many welds total are similar to the one that failed on your pipeline?
I don't have that information on hand. Those would be specific welds to fittings, and it would not be a huge number, but I don't have the number offhand. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'd love that info if we could get that in the future. That'd be great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think one of my other primary concerns is the nature of the hazardous liquid. You know, we know it's bitumen or delbit, in that that there are really no scientifically proven methods to actually clean dilbit off of surfaces. It has to be excavated, and that's just my understanding, so correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm wondering, you know, what is the remediation plan? Is it just excavating everything that's been touched by this oil? And ultimately, you know, I do have concerns that chemicals are still being, you know, are being transferred into these surfaces. So if dilbit gets on the stream bed, are those chemicals transferring to the stream bed? I know you say you're testing water quality. I am wondering if those test results are made public, and how. I just want to know, what's the long-term plan to measure the impacts of dilbit in our communities and in this environment?
Thank you for the question. So what I would say is that, you know, with any spill, I think having oil on the creek bed is a concern. In particular, as I talked about the way we are doing this cleanup, we have completely, in many areas, and we will completely dewater the entire creek as part of our cleanup. So we are actually removing the bottom layer of soil where we have any trace amounts of oil. In conjunction with KDHE and EPA, we are testing each area after that work has been completed to ensure that there are no remaining contaminants and it meets the requirements of our consent order with EPA and KDHE, and we will continue that throughout. So in our particular case, I don't see that we will have an issue with any remaining contaminants in the creek bed after we've completed our entire remediation.
Thank you. And where are your excavated materials being taken, just so we know?
The excavated materials are being taken to an approved landfill site. So what we've done is we have stored those locally on site, ensuring we have appropriate containment. We have tested those materials to ensure that they don't qualify as hazardous waste, and we have been transporting to them to facilities that are able to take those wastes, and they're designed for those wastes. And we do that with their consent, and it's at their discretion to accept those materials.
Okay, thank you. And
How many more?
two more, if I may, and they're brief.
Because we've got a few more we need to get to. So
Thank you. I'll hurry up. Okay, so my last couple questions here. I wanted to follow up on a previous representative's questions as well in terms of the claims process. So I was just wondering how much money has been paid out to the landowners in the form of claims, and then I was wondering, are they required to waive any claims for damages they may have otherwise had in order to receive those claim payments?
Again, I don't know the specifics offhand of the agreements that we've signed with the landowners, but I would say that we will fully compensate them for the damages and access to their properties. That will include, our remediation efforts and any impacts to their property over the longer term as they return those lands to active agricultural areas.
Thank you. And my very last question, I was concerned during the process of this cleanup that a no-fly zone was implemented, which prevents media from, going over the site with drones to, in my opinion, I think it prevents a level of transparency and accountability for TC Energy. And when I've inquired about it in the past, safety was cited as a concern for the presence of those drones. And I do understand that consideration, but I do think there is a need for transparency and accountability. So I'm wondering, A, is the no-fly zone still in place? And then what was the reasoning for the implementation of that no-fly zone?
The no-fly zone is still in place, and you're correct. That is our focus is entirely on the remediation of this site and the safety of those people working on site. And it's not really conducive to doing those activities if you're distracted with flyovers and drones and other things. So we have, and as I've shared with yourself and others when you came to site, I've shared photographic drone footage. We're willing to do that with anybody that's interested in doing that from this committee or others. And I think we can continue to do that. But at this time, we don't want to distract anything from the activities. The reason that we've been able to, I think, have the effective response that we've had and able to get to the point where we're at 95% cleaned up is the fact that we've really contained this site to only the people that need to be there with the appropriate safety training.
Thank you, Mr. Salzman. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Representative. Cindy Howerton, did you have any questions? Okay. Representative Turner. No questions. And we have our ranking down. I'll let KC, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony today. I want to go back to your statement that you indicated that you actually raised money for the hospital in the county. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, my question is it anybody that comes to the hospital with respect to any problems from the fumes, with problems with the spill? They're pretty much their claims will be paid by your company, or is it something that is on the citizens of Washington County?
So we have had we've had a number of people that have had to go to the local hospital as a result of incidents or minor injuries on the site. And my understanding, to my knowledge, that the county hospital has not had to deal with those costs. But
my question is respiratory problems with respect to the fumes from the oil spill.
We haven't had any issues relative to that.
As claims that come in per se by your company, by any patients or any residents from the county.
No, we've been, as I said earlier, we've been doing continuous air monitoring and ensuring that the air is safe. Earlier on in the incident, we had exclusion zones in areas that had elevated levels until we've had those under control. So
now, Mr. Chair, please. My next question is it only limited to the people in Washington County, or is it surrounding counties that are experiencing any problems health-wise in regards to the spill? If I can go a little bit further, any resident across the border with respect to fumes that was actually generated from the spill Is your company going to be taking care of their claims per se?
To my knowledge, Representative Ohoywism, we haven't had any complaints relative to any air quality issues from anyone either close to the site or outside of that location. Again, as I said, we've focused on containing that incident to a very small and contained area. And again, our primary concern, as always, is the safety of our workers and those in the community around us, and we'll continue to do that. And if anything arises in that, we will deal with it promptly.
I want to follow up on a question Representative Vaughn had asked in respect to the no-fly zone. When do you anticipate that no-fly zone to be removed?
That no-fly zone gets reevaluated on an ongoing basis. I'm not sure when the next.
How frequent?
Sorry.
How frequent is you said ongoing basis? How frequent?
I'm not sure the frequency of that reevaluation, but I believe it's in some period of time, maybe weeks or months. I'm not sure, but that will be reevaluated, and I expect that once we have completed the work we're doing now, which is the major recovery efforts, that we'd be able to relax some of the conditions that we have in place.
Does that raise the level of transparency when you're saying you don't know how frequent that no-fly zone can be removed with respect to people who are trying to inquire, whether it's the press, whether it's regular citizens, as to the cleanup efforts?
I would, that's, and apologize for not knowing that particular timing, but I would say we do have continuous participation on site from the EPA.
I'm talking about transparency, sir.
And I'll get there if you allow me, Representative.
Please go.
We do have continuous participation from EPA and KDHE on site. EPA maintains a website that you can go to and see, numerous photos and lots of updated information on the site itself. And we as well have provided a number of presentations to both representatives here in the room today and the local county officials that share information relative to what's happening on site. And we'll continue to do that and answer questions. But again, our job, we want this done. Our job is focused completely on making sure that our team on site is 100% focused on this cleanup effort and ensuring the safety of our workers out there and the community.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony.
In the name of time, we've got one more. I'm going to let the chairman of water see what kind of questions we got here, and then we need to shut it down. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Salzman, I want to talk a little bit about the topography in that area. I've heard from a local landowner that this pipeline went up and over a hillside that had about 45-degree slopes, maybe even steeper on one side. Can you talk about your engineering process, how you determine, let's say a stream, you're obviously going to bore underneath a stream and underneath highways. Did this topography potentially cause a problem with the metal fatigue or stress? When do you bore? Do you use heavier pipe in certain areas? And do you sleeve things for safety issues?
That particular crossing was actually an open cut crossing. So we dammed the creek, and it was not bored. It was an open cut crossing. I'm not going to speculate until we get the root cause analysis as to the contributing factors of this incident, or the why, so to speak, of why this occurred. But from my experience constructing and building pipelines all over North America, there's nothing particularly concerning about the terrain in this area that would concern me from building a pipeline in that particular location.
That does conclude the questions. Gary, I really appreciate you being here. Also, thanks to Ken Eccles. We've been on the phone many times throughout this, and I do I appreciate the response when I would call. At least in the Ken, you always answered the phone. You always provided the answers that I had at the time. I've been around pipelines some. I worked with a pipeline company for a while. Very familiar with the SCADA operations and how you found, the purpose of it and how the spill was probably seen on a pretty quick time. I respect the fact you got to get out there, you respond, you fix the problems first, and we do the follow-ups like this kind of after the fact. But I would like to see the final root cause report when it's available. I understand you're still working it over, but I think the committee would like to see that. So if you've got any closing comments or anything, I appreciate you being here.
Sure. I appreciate that, Chairman, and all the representatives in attendance here today from both committees. I just want to thank you for this opportunity. Again, no incident is acceptable to us. We will, and I commit personally, we will be here until we've rectified this situation. We will be open and share the results of that analysis as you requested. And I want to in particularly thank the residents of Washington County for both their support for our teams and our workers on site, as well as their patience as we work through this as quickly and expeditiously as possible, as well as the people of Kansas. Appreciate the time and the opportunity to be here today.
Okay, and that closes the informational briefing on TC and Energy. To the Energy Group here, on Thursday, March 16th, we're going to have an informational briefing from Atmos Energy, and then we're going to have hearings on Senate Bill 49, the Resolution 1603, and we're going to do final action on Senate Bill 144. Mr. Minix, do you have any announcements?
Water Committee, we have a busy day on Thursday morning. We're going to hear from the city of Hayes about their water conservation efforts, also from the conservation districts. And if we have time, we will work Senate Bill 205. We'll see you Thursday morning.
All right, we are dismissed.